Hi, good afternoon. I'm Vicki Westling with the City of Dunkirk, here to talk about City Speaks with our Chief Operator of our water filtration plant, Bob Laurie. And we are actually in the water filtration plant. And over behind me here is the Filter Plant Control Center. So you can see this is where our operators sit, so they know what's going on, so what's happening. We're going to take kind of a mini tour around the plant. But before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about City Speaks. City Speaks is a vision of Mayor Rosas. Mayor Rosas promised change. He promised transparency. He promised our residents and our taxpayers that he would do the best job possible to bring to the city everything we could regarding overcoming some of our economic challenges, whether it is our roads, our infrastructure, anything that we can do to make the city of Dunkirk better. That has been his mission and his goal. So with that, we have questions. Remember, we've talked about before that if you have questions, you want answers, let me know. Contact me. You can email me at vwestling@cityofdunkirk.com. You may snail mail me, Vicki Westling, City of Dunkirk, 342 Central Avenue, Dunkirk 14048, or you can call the office, 363-6888, and speak with me personally, or leave something with the city clerk. In many cases, people actually stop me when I'm walking Sam. This past weekend, I had several people stop me. So let's go through some of the questions that I've had emailed to me, as well as phone calls, as well as someone stopping me. First question is a result of our visit to the wastewater treatment plant last week, in which our chief operator, Sean Rayner, took us around the wastewater treatment plant as phase one because it was just too large to do it in one show. And it was wonderful, I might add. One of the questions came to me from a resident who had watched the show. They said that after viewing City Speaks, they thought they heard Chief Operator Sean Rayner say that the sludge, once the liquid was pressed out of it, went to the landfill. They wanted to know more about that. I contacted the wastewater treatment plant today, and this is the answer that they have given me. Chief Operator Sean Rayner stated in his interview on City Speaks that liquid from the sludge is pressed out and also treated with chemicals before it is hauled to the county landfill for disposal. We have permits that require us to treat the sludge with chemicals before it can be hauled to the county landfill site. So even though it's hauled there, it is safe once it gets there. Another question came from a resident who sent an email asking me when the repaving of Canary Street was going to take place. I reached out to our DPW Director, Randy Woodbury. Director Woodbury has informed me that Canary Street is on schedule to be repaved along with North Martin, parts of Nevins, and Ruggles, along with the County Shared Services Agreement. He expects this work to begin within the next couple of weeks. City Speaks is a vision of Mayor Rosas. He believes in transparency. I believe in transparency. I've had several questions come up recently over and over again. One of them suggests that councilmen don't need to reside in the ward with which they represent. That is not the case. Our city councilmen must reside in the ward with which they represent, with the exception of our councilman at large. That individual does not need to reside in any particular ward in order to represent the city as councilman at large. Additionally, the councilman at large position acts as chairperson for the city council. The next question that has continued to come up is, does Councilman Heenan live and reside in the city of Dunkirk in the 3rd Ward? I asked Councilman Heenan about this question. He responded that this question has been around for many years, and he has lived in the 3rd Ward of the city of Dunkirk since 1999. He stated that he has 2 businesses in Fredonia and spends a great deal of time there, but his residence is in the 3rd Ward in the city of Dunkirk. Finally, another question that has come up asks why I have not invited Councilman Heenan to guest on City Speaks. Is it because he's the only Republican on the City Council? Let me please explain. that political party affiliation is never a consideration when it comes to my integrity or my objectivity when representing Mayor Rosas on this show. This show is based on total transparency. I have invited Councilman Heenan to the program as stated above. He has a very busy schedule, however. He has graciously accepted my invitation and will be the guest on City Speaks on Thursday, September 20th. And to the woman who stopped me when I was shopping at Walmart 7:30 this past Saturday morning, asking about Councilman Heenan, please let me assure you that Councilman Heenan and I have had a marvelous, very productive, very open conversation about all of these issues. He is here to represent the city of Dunkirk, the 3rd Ward residents. So please, let's just put these questions to rest. And now, having said that, we have with us our chief operator for our water filtration plant, Bob Laurie. And Chief Operator Laurie has stated that he's going to give us a brief tour. We're going to talk about what the water plant does. And Chief Laurie, welcome.
Welcome, Vicki.
Now, this filtration plant is critical, obviously, to the drinking water for the city residents and the businesses within the city of Dunkirk. Tell me a little bit about the process. What do you do? How do you make it so pure and clean?
Actually, the lake water that we do have coming into the plant is a real good quality water. So we basically only add 2 chemicals to the water. Chlorine to disinfect it, and we use a coagulant to settle out any turbidities in the water. We use detention time to settle out a lot of the impurities. Everything goes through a process of flocculation, sedimentation, then we get to filtration. Our filter beds use a GAC, granulated activated carbon filter system, which removes 99% of everything in the water. Takes out taste and odor, you name it. Our process removes, like I said, 99%. Once you get through the filter, we hit it with another dose of chlorine, and then it goes out to the residents. But it's constantly tested every hour. So we're very proud of the water that we do put out.
So you talk about it being tested every hour. Is that where our lab director comes in?
The lab director, he checks on the operators who'll do the physical testing. He makes sure the equipment is up to specs and meets the standards required, but he does more of the distribution testing. He'll go out, take our samples for the distribution, make sure the water that is in the distribution is just as good.
So we talk about distribution. Now that brings us to a topic that certainly we've all been aware of for a couple of years now, the North County Water District. We're going to be providing water as a sole supplier for the district. Tell me a little bit about our role in this as far as the city of Dunkirk's water filtration plant and what you have done to prepare for that.
Basically, we've had the capacity to supply the North County Water District. What we're doing most of the work is just upgrading and updating a lot of the equipment we have. Basically, we are just a supplier to the district. So they approach us and say, we're ready to buy water, and we just sell the water to them. As far as I can tell, they're looking at a couple weeks. They're ready to go, and we're ready. We're still finishing up some projects, but we'll get there.
Okay, so we think that we're going to be set and ready to make that happen. That's a good thing. Can you take us a little bit? You want to show us some things that are going on?
Yeah, we can walk around a little bit. I still got a lot of work going on, so we're going to be limited, but I'd like to show you the filter bed area. These are some of the projects that have been completed in the past 6-7 years, so they're relatively new and upgraded.
Okay, so the filter bed area, and that's right behind us here.
Yep, right behind us. These are where the operators spend a lot of their time.
Okay, are we going to go in or look through the doors?
We can walk right in.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so now we have...
All right, what you're seeing is we have actually 8 filter beds. Each filter bed is capable of producing 1 million gallons of water a day, a flow through them. Actually a little more, but we generally don't run them that high. Right now we're probably averaging about 3 million to 3.5 million gallons a day. So we have plenty capacity. The testing sample sink is right here. All of our water that we test, raw water, our chlorinated raw water, our settled water that's just on top of the filter beds, after the filter beds, it all comes up to this sink, so we can sample it right here, and this is where the operators come every hour. The filters themselves have been upgraded probably 5-6 years ago. This is all new equipment. We're not tied into SCADA yet, but it's, we'll call it semi-automatic. They're more of a manual mode right now. Each of the filters, they will be washed every 80 hours. And reference, which we'll take a look at, that's what the new tank that's being built now is almost finished. Hopefully within a couple weeks it'll be ready. That's what that tanks are for, is for the water that we use to backwash the filters. It doesn't go out to the city at all. It's just for process control.
And now when you say that tank that washes the filters, you're referring to that big blue tank, the new one that's going in?
Yes.
And then the old one that's going to come out?
Correct. Right. The old tank is a 50,000 gallon tank. It's about 100 years old, and it's not in the best of shape. Until the new one, which is 75,000 gallons, is complete and ready to be tied in, I can't do anything with the old tank. So we're probably within 2 weeks of have the new tank being able to be tied in, and hopefully shortly after that they'll be able to start demoing the old tank.
So now with the new tank being tied in and demoing the old tank, that's going to clear up some space out there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'll clear up some space, and what it helps eliminate is a hazard of that tank either falling or having a catastrophic failure of it, which could create a lot of damage that we don't need. So this way the tank is out of the way and we won't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay, so now does the new blue tank, we're going to walk out there eventually, but the new blue tank, does that hold more than the old one?
Yes, it does. We increased the capacity and we increased the height. The reason that was done was foreseeing tying into the district and producing more water. Generally what happens is your filters will need to be cleaned a little bit more often. So this just gives us a little bit of extra capacity to be able to do that with no problem.
Okay, and so now these are our filter beds, and we have 8 of them.
Yes, there are 8 filter beds. 6 were original, 2 were added in the 60s. Like I said, they're pretty much state-of-the-art on how they operate. They got a new air scrubbing system that was designed and put underneath the media, and we use this to help clean it. It actually bubbles the water up underneath and it loosens the sediment into the media and flushes it out, so when we use the water it just pushes it out. It gives you a better cleaning on the filter beds.
Okay, and so now do we walk down here, or do you want to walk?
Yeah, we can walk down to the end. I can show you our pump station. The water flows by gravity from the lake all the way to the pump station, and then we pump it. It's kind of different, but we actually pump it from this area all the way out back to the chemical building. We can go through there, and then we can go through the tunnel, and I can show you some of the newer piping and accessories that were put down there, and then we'll have to go outside, or we can go up to the lab after that.
Okay, let's go. So tell us a little bit. So now as we walk through here, I noticed that each of these beds have kind of their own little computer system.
Yes.
What do they do?
What those screens will eventually give us, it'll give us any data within the plant will be able to show up on these screens. So I can individually go to each screen and see what each filter is doing, or that filter is doing, or anything else in the plant, any process control that's tied into the SCADA. So if an operator's out here washing a bed and he's got a problem out back, he could actually bring that up on the SCADA and see what the problem is to determine if he needs to get out there or not.
So each filter bed has its own system, so if one has a problem, they may not all have a problem, but at least we would know which.
That's the whole process of the SCADA in each of these filters. They can run independently, so if any one of them fails, it doesn't affect the other one. That's by design. So you can run up to, you can run all the way down to one filter if nobody was using water, or you can run all 8. And if one is offline, as for a bed wash, the other filters automatically pick up that flow. So they're constantly changing.
Okay, well that's really interesting because, you think that if one went down it might affect the others, but I'm glad to hear that it doesn't. So that's good news.
It's all by design.
Okay, and so now we're headed down to
This is called our low service pump station. It's our raw water that comes into the plant. Like I said, our intake well is about a mile away from the plant here to the lake. So the water just flows by gravity into the wells underneath the pumps, and then these pumps pump the water out back to the chemical building.
Okay, so are we going down these stairs or?
Yeah, we can come right into the stairs a little bit. They'd probably get a better picture from the top of the stairs.
Okay. It's very noisy. Okay, so now this is the pump station, right?
This is our low service pump station. This pumps the raw water to the chemical building. We have 4 pumps. I got 2 pumps that'll pump 6.5 MGD each. The other 2 pumps can do 4.5. So there's roughly 20 million gallon capacity of pumpage if you need it, but we don't.
That's a lot of water to drink.
Oh. And, the water is underneath these platforms here. This is actually 2 tanks, but they're common tanks. It's about 20 feet deep, and that's just the lake water that's being pumped over to the back of the plant.
Okay, so now where are we headed?
We better go back this way, and we'll go downstairs and take a quick walk through.
Okay. Now, when you talk about going downstairs, what are we going to see when we go down there?
What we're going to see downstairs is the bottom half of the filters. Down below in the pipe gallery, as we call it, is all the piping that connects to the filters, the water coming in, water going out, all the valve controls, and there's certain testing equipment that monitors the water constantly. We'll see that, and I can explain a little more downstairs.
Okay. So this is quite an operation when you have all of the different, from the pumping from a mile away and. Whoa. So where are we now?
All right, right now we're below the filter beds, actually below the hallway. The filter beds are on either side. These are the walls of them. So we're in between a lot of water. It's not going nowhere.
No leaks, right?
Before the upgrade started, there was all kinds of leaks down here. We had water everywhere. You almost need an umbrella. So this is quite a change. All the piping's been insulated. We have all new controls or electronic controls. We've got away from the water hydraulic controls because there were too many leaks. All of this has been done within the last 8 years. It was quite a project, but it was happy to be done. So what you're seeing is the piping of the water going into the filters and also coming out. The water coming out, there's actually clear wells under the filters that the water goes into, and then all the way around to the main clear well. I also have some testing equipment down here, the turbidimeters, which constantly test the water coming out of the filters and gives us an idea of the clarity of the water coming out.
Now, you mentioned that this has been done in the last 8 years. You've been here for quite a while. How long have you been with the city, and how long have you been the chief operator of the water filtration plant?
I have been with the city for 29 years, and I took over as chief operator in 2010.
So that's quite a while. You've got quite a history here.
A long time, a lot of experience. I've seen a lot.
I'm sure you have. And it looks like now that things are really beginning to some positive changes are being made. We have a lot of things happening, not just with the Water District, but like you say, with all of the upgrades, things that are going on. And you've been a big part of that. You've been a part of that, not only that it's taking place, but a part of the success that we see for our residents. So kudos to you. Good job.
So far, it's been a culmination of a lot of people's hard work, and it's a long time. It takes a long time. It's a lot better than it was.
Well, that's great. All right, so now we're heading out or up or where?
Yeah, well, up here. I can't go too much farther here. They got a lot of work going on the rest of the way. There's a tunnel access that goes all the way out back to the chem building. But they're in the process of putting in the piping for the new backwash tank, and it's kind of blocked off all the access. So if they want to pan and take a quick picture, you can see the new piping just inside the doorway. And that's what will eventually connect to the pipe from the old tank. And then we'll be good to go with the new tank, hopefully.
Okay, so actually, there's a lot of work going on down here and into this area.
Yes, there is. There's electrical, there's piping. I have piping on the other end. They're replacing the old water lines inside the plant as well. There's still a lot of work going on. It's tedious work. It's just time consuming.
When do we think it's going to be finished?
Their projected schedule is most of the major stuff. The piping end of it should be done by September 27, somewhere near the end of September. There's a little coordination between flocculators are being rebuilt completely. So they're still working on that. They haven't had, the first two are not built yet. They're working on it, but they're not built. And then I have the other two to do besides. So time frame on those are a little iffy.
Well, I've learned that whenever somebody says it's going to take me 2 weeks to plan on 3, so...
You have to. Yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong and have gone wrong, and it's just, you're always adjusting, so...
Well, that's good that we're able to be flexible. So where are we headed now? We're going to the lab or are you going out?
We're going to head back upstairs, and we can go to the lab, and then we can head out.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, the lab, we have... Kyle Schuster. Kyle's been with us for quite a while, and we're going to talk with him because he's our lab director. Now, a little bit about what goes on with the water filtration plant and certainly with the lab. That's critical, and that's critical for our residents to know, what's happening in this area.
Yes, it is, and we constantly, like I said, we're constantly regulated to check the water in the distribution as well as the plant. And, excuse me, and Kyle's a big part of that.
Okay, so now we're up here on Sabres Boulevard.
There you go.
And we have Kyle with us. Hi, Kyle. How are you doing up here?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm good. So, Kyle, we're here with City Speaks, and we want to know a little bit about what you do.
Okay. The basic objective of the lab is to perform testing and sampling to make sure our water is safe to drink and meets all the mandatory requirements from the EPA, State Health Department.
And have we ever had any kind of issues where that has not happened?
Not in the past few years, no.
Okay, past few years. So how long have you been with us?
I've been in the lab for 2 years, an operator for 5, so a total of 7 years.
Wow. Okay, so now tell me about some of the kinds of things that, what does your day consist of?
My day usually consists of, I'll come in, do some paperwork, because I'm responsible for all the monitoring and all the reporting of the data from the plant. So any operational data I usually look over. And then after that, I generally go out and collect water samples, and I test for chlorine, turbidity, and we do bacteriological samples weekly to make sure the water is safe to consume.
Now, what is turbidity?
Turbidity is how dirty your water is, basically. It's the cloudiness of the water. So if your water's cloudy, there's a chance that bacteria could grow in that water, especially if you have a low chlorine residual.
Okay, so, and I've noticed that the city of Dunkirk, our water really tastes excellent.
I agree.
So as a matter of fact, when I have guests and people come up from out of town, and they always think that there should be bottled water, and I say, well, you've got to taste this water first, and that's because of the things that we do here.
Correct. The nice thing about our plant is it's limitedly treated, so we only put one chemical besides chlorine in the water. So you're not going to have, a taste of some foreign substance in your water. It's a really good process, and I think we make some of the best drinking water in Chautauqua County by far.
I would have to agree with that. So we only use chlorine and one other chemical.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And now how will your job change, or what will happen when the North County Water District comes in?
As of right now, we haven't been asked to do their testing, so I'm not sure. It could change in the future. I could use some staff to help me if we're going to be taking on more testing for sure.
Well, I'm certain that if we were to be testing for the entire water district, certainly I'm positive there'd have to be all kinds of accommodations and things that would have to happen. As we stand now, however, we're in pretty good shape. So you think we're pretty ready as long as we don't need to add anything?
Absolutely. We're definitely ready to go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kyle. We appreciate your time. And Bob, where are we off to now?
I think right now we could probably go outside. I'll take you as far as I can go. I just want to make sure everybody watches their step, because I got gopher holes all over.
Okay. Well, I wore sneakers, so we'll be all right.
Even with sneakers.
Okay. So we're going to go back down. All right. So now when you say gopher holes, do you mean real little gophers are digging holes, or do you mean that they're just holes being dug by the process?
It's quite a unique process. Some of this I'm not used to. It's the first time I've gone through and seen it. Because of the multi-depth of pipes that we've been dealing with, they've actually had to dig deep, put the pipe in, fill the hole back in, and then come back through and dig again.
Oh.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's understandable, because you down at those depths, you're down 20 feet, 25 feet. You don't want to cave in, so I guess there's a certain process for the piping, which is new to me, so I got to learn a lot.
Okay, well, learning, I learn every day, sometimes more things than I wish I didn't learn. So now, what is going on here?
This, back when we actually had the accident happen with the pipe breach, this was all dug out. I have a set of stairs that go down, and they had to remove those to get enough access to the pipe. So I've got a new set coming in, hopefully within the next week. And they left this open so they can get the new stairs mounted in and get this end back together. Part of the other project is a fencing, and there's going to be an electronic security gate at the front, and they have an electric pole box here, so they had to leave that dug open so we can put some conduit to that.
Okay, and so now here we have our new blue water tank behind us. Now, and this tank, the blue tank, is going to replace this old tank. Is that correct?
That's correct, Vicki. It'll be nice. Hopefully within a couple of weeks that'll happen. But with the extra capacity that it's going to give us, it'll be a lot better off than the rusty old tank.
Well,
One thing I did want to point out while we were here, everything inside these cement pillars are our finished water clear wells. There's actually two of them. There's about 850,000 gallons of water underneath this grass right here. That's our finished water. So that's part of the reason to have these fencing done, to keep the water secure as much as you can.
So this fenced-in area, then, this is where people generally would not drive in there. They wouldn't go in there. There'd be no activity in there, basically.
Exactly. There really shouldn't. And I know people in the past have walked through, and they don't know. This should have been fenced in all along. Why it never was, I don't know. But it's definitely part of the project. It should be happening in October. And that'll help keep everything secure.
So it won't be an open fence like this. It'll be a more closed fence?
It'll be totally enclosed. The tank will be part of the fencing project. The fencing will come all the way right up tight to the building with an electronic gate, so we can have remote access.
Okay. Now, what is this building behind us here?
The building behind us is the chemical building that the raw water, when we seen the raw water pump station, that's where it pumps to. It pumps around out back comes in the back side of this building.
Let's walk up that way.
Yes, just be careful.
Okay. All right, so the water comes in from the lake, or what, a mile away?
A mile out is our intake. It'll come in to the back of the plant. Then we'll pump it to the chem building. The water's coming in on the back side of the chem building right underneath the bike path. And with the wall falling, that was the purpose of the rocks, to kind of brace it up, because that is a main feed line that's sitting right there. So we shored that up and put some anchors on there to protect it.
Okay, so we have, I mean, the view from up here is beautiful. So we have the tank, the old tank that's going down. We have, this is our chem building where the water comes in from the lake. So now
we do with the chem building, obviously it derives its name, chemical building, because that's where we had our chlorine, our pre-chlorine, and we'll also add our coagulant. Those get mixed in these chambers. Years ago they did used to have lime. We stopped adding lime maybe 20 years ago, because the pH was fine. We didn't need to adjust it for corrosion control. So in this building, basically that's all we're doing is adding a coagulant, the chlorine, mixing the water up, and then it'll go through its flocculation process. The upper floor is all our storage for our chemical. And down below is pretty much just the other end of the tunnel, but there's a lot of work going on there. We can't get there either. From the chemical building, the water will exit the flocculators, which are on the back end, that slowly, it mixes the water at a slower pace to allow the coagulant to let the particles form together and form floc. When it comes out of the flocculators, it'll go right into these basins here. There's actually 2 basins, and there's a third one on the end, and those are called our sedimentation basins. And all that does is slow the water down even more to allow the stuff to settle out.
Okay.
I'd like to go into chem building, but I got so much stuff all over. I think if we walk this way, we could probably get just a little peek through the doorways.
Okay. All right, so we can just kind of focus through there.
You can see, I mean, there's so much work going on. It's just it's a hazard to be in there, especially with these guys are working. I don't want to slow them down. Pretty much on this side that he's looking at now, all there is 2 rapid mixers that rapidly mix the coagulant in the water. And if we go down to the next doorway, this is part of where they're installing the new flocculator drive equipment. They've taken the upper one out, and it'll be replaced with 2 new drive units. So the one on the far end is the old one. There used to be 1 for 2 chambers. I had them change that. We have 1 for each individual chamber now to give me a little bit more flexibility. But we're in the process right now of installing all that equipment.
Well, Bob, it sounds like there is so much going on. I don't know how you're possibly keeping up. I guess it's just because of all your years of experience and everything that you've done. And so as a resident and a water drinker, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the time that you have spent with us today. I know that this has been a real effort for you because you have other things that you needed to do, but our residents want to know. They want to know who Bob Laurie is. They want to know what's going on with their water filtration plant, and you have certainly given them a good idea of what's happening. So thank you, and thank you for watching City Speaks. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, even after today, if you want Bob to answer any of those, please let me know. Send an email, vwestling@cityofdunkirk.com. Drop it off at City Hall. Mail it to me at City Hall, 342 Central Avenue, Dunkirk. And let me know what you think. City Speaks is for you, the residents of this city. So thank you, and have a great day.